where no love can go. We see it as a place to rest. The blackbirds sing, yeah, and the church bells ring, and I leave my soul to rest. Man that came to me as a boy, when my blood ran blue, was a guest in my father's house. Gods and icons, and quiet remorse, knew I was in good hands.
Welcome to the closing act, where we showcase some of the most creative forces in singing and songwriting to music and production in the Canadian pop music scene. Joining me on this month's show is part one of a part two interview with a very special guest who has been in the music scene for most part of his life. He's also shared the stage with some of the most well-known music acts out there. Welcome to the show, Russell Earl Marsland.
Thank you very much.
So when did you start your passion for music?
I was five.
Five. How?
Yeah. Well, my mom and I went to a Sunday school church bazaar place, and I saw a record that I fell in love with just immediately by seeing the jacket. And it was The King of the Blues by B.B. King. And I took it home, we put it on the stereo at home, and I absolutely, completely fell in love with the sound of B.B.'s guitar and his voice. At 5 years old, I told my mother that I wanted to be a guitar player. And so she said, well, we'll see, you'll have to get a guitar at some point. She got me a Cowboy Bob guitar from Sears, which was unplayable, so it was quite a challenge to prove that I wanted to be a guitar player, and the rest was kind of history. It just went on from there. So yeah, I knew immediately, like I'd been there before.
You just knew. And do you come from a family of musicians?
Yeah, actually, my grandfather played in the Mark Kinney Orchestra, which was quite a good orchestra. He played at the Banff Springs Hotel for many, many years. My mom was a real good singer, and we always had music in the house. My grandfather played boogie-woogie piano and stuff. We used to have house parties, and as a young boy, I'd go downstairs and I'd watch him grinding away on this piano, and just completely fell in love, And I got my first paying gig when I was 12.
12?
12, yeah. Yeah, at Father Nick up at Our Lady of Sorrows Church, we had a little band, a little soul band, believe it or not, at 12 years of age. We had a 7-piece horn band, and we did Otis Redding and Sam and Dave and all that stuff. So yeah, it came quickly to me. And,
right, but how did you convince your parents that you were on your way?
Well, through passion. Basically, they wanted to see what I would do, not what I would talk about doing. Mm-hmm. So I became really good real young. And then guys started hiring me because I looked a bit older than my age. And I started getting proper gigs, not because I was young, but because I could play. And it just kind of went from there. And it was something that I was born to do. I knew it, and they got it. They understood. They said, you can do this providing that you don't get in trouble, that you don't, not have money or not have a job or, get into drugs or anything. And it's basically kept me sane ever since. So it worked.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, tell us your first gig. What was it like?
Oh, God. Terrifying.
Yeah.
My first gig, not my first paying gig, but my first concert gig was in grade 6 at school, and I played solo guitar. I played some surf music, and of course, right in the middle of the first song, I was playing. The pick flew out of my hand, and it's like, the scariest time of my life. But after that, playing some of these community centers and stuff like that, we did talent contests. We did all kinds of stuff. And then when I was 15, I actually played at a place called the Penthouse, which was, it still is in Vancouver. It was the best place to find music because the musicians were fantastic there, and that's where they tried out a lot of music that came to Vancouver, from black music, all kinds of different jazz musicians. They all came to the Penthouse, and you had to learn how to perform with the dancers. So you had to pay attention, you had to be aware of your surroundings, and you had to be a good player, because it was like vaudeville of sorts. It wasn't so much the nudity thing. It was obviously, sexy dancing, but it wasn't so much about that. The band was a major part of that show. And so I would play in an Italian restaurant with some buddies from East Vancouver, and then at the end of the night we would go to the Penthouse, unbeknownst to my folks. They didn't know I was there, so I found a way to get back in the house without too much kerfuffle. But many years later, they found out that I was kind of getting.
So you would sneak out?
More sneaking back in, actually. But music has been my savior all this time, and I've been lucky to play with some great musicians, in my life. And I actually, because of the B.B. King situation, many years later, I went up to the gardens where B.B. King was playing, and of course I was too young to get in. And I was outside listening to his band. It was raining, typical Vancouver weather.
Wow.
And I just wanted to hear my idol. I just wanted to hear him in person. And the band was introducing B.B. King, but he wasn't there. And I was standing out in the rain, and all of a sudden the station wagon pulls up, and out jumps B.B. King. Wow. Right beside me.
Wow.
At the side door, right? He's banging on the door. And some guy comes to the door and opens up the door. He says, "Who are you?" He says, "I'm B.B. King." The guy goes, "Yeah, sure." Slams the door on him. And, I'm standing there. It's B.B. King, right?
Oh,
obviously, he didn't know who he was. And he just kind of looked at me, because I was the only person there. He looked at me and goes, "Ain't that a bitch?" B.B.'s the gentleman of all gentlemen, right? And finally he banged on the door again. It opened up, and I guess his manager or whoever it was there let him in. And he just kind of looked at me for a second. He kind of nudged me like that, because I looked like a rat. I was standing out in the pouring rain. I was happy just to be outside, to hear that music that drove me to play. So I got a chance to go in, look around, and I'll never forget it. Mm-hmm. To hear that music at 5, and I knew absolutely that was going to be what I was going to do.
Your story is already written.
It's already written. I had nothing to do with it. I'm a conduit. Basically, the music just came through me.
Never want to cause you any sorrow. Never meant to cause you any pain. I just wanna see you laughing. See you laughing, baby. Living in the purple rain. Purple rain. Purple rain. Purple rain. Purple rain.
Going back into history, my family actually was in the first area of Vancouver called Strathcona. That house was built in the 1890s. That house is still there today, where my grandfather was born. And their neighbor was Jimi Hendrix's grandmother, Vi, who lived across the street. If you were to go to that house today, you could stand in that window and look across the street at Jimmy's grandma's house. They were neighbors. So it almost, like you say, it almost seems like it was written, like a script that was written for me. Hendrix was a huge influence in my playing. B.B. King, Hendrix, Albert King, Albert Collins, all the great musicians that inspired me, inspired Jimmy. And then of course Jimmy's playing inspired me. And it seems strange that was happening before I was even born.
Right.
It all started before me.
And and in Vancouver was the place.
Vancouver was a very, very hit place. The music scene has changed dramatically, but they used places like the Penthouse to bring and preview different acts in Vancouver. Jazz musicians would come and they would try out their shows there. Mitzi Gaynor, the famous dancer, would come to Vancouver because they said, if you can impress Vancouver, the rest of the tour is going to be easy. But they gave us an opportunity to perform in these places where, in a lot of cases, black community weren't allowed to play in certain areas. We're talking in the 50s and 60s and early 70s. It was just starting to change. But it was a place where we could do our thing. And it was open. Sammy Davis used to go to the Penthouse. All these people used to come there early because it was open and free and cool. And the music was always good. So I was lucky enough to cut my teeth in the best of places with the best of players. I worked 5 nights a week in a place called Lassiter's Den, which was a famous nightclub in Vancouver. I was still in school. I would practice during my lunch hour, instead of running around playing baseball or something. They would pick me up, take me to a garage where one of the guys was staying in this garage, and we'd practice. And I played 5 nights a week for 2.5 years, and I was still going to school. So it's kind of amazing how it all came together.
Right, it's amazing. And you shared the stage with some of the well-known music acts.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
What was that like? At the very beginning.
To me, it's like an out-of-body experience because you never think of yourself as being anything other than who you are to yourself. So people say, "Oh, well, you're this guitar player, you're this, you're that." I see myself as me because my focal point is coming from inside me. And music for me basically is channeling. You're channeling some kind of spirit. I don't profess to stand up there and try to do this or try to do that. It just comes through me. In all the years of experience, we get so many different influences. You absorb them like you absorb the sun. It's not as though you sit down and try to be somebody else. We're all influenced by, we listen to jazz music at home. We listen to Dixieland music. We listen to Latin music. We listen to bagpipes. And we listen to everything. But it found its way into my heart through the blues. And blues and country, this is an interesting story. Blues and country are exactly the same. They're both farmers. One's farming cotton, one's farming corn or cattle. They're both storytelling. And they're all about hardship and about telling the stories of what it's like to be in their shoes. That's why blues music and country music, the good songs have great stories. And that's why we fall in love with the stories, because it takes us to another place.
Patience and virtue led me home. I come clean for now. Without an end on high road was where my soul does it wrong. You can't fool a dumb man. You can lead a horse to drink. You made your bed, it's just another place to lie. I walked this road 1,000,000 times and my legs, they feel like lead. Pick up the soul guitar and I start to cry.
I went to Mississippi a couple times, and I'll tell you something, I had no preconceived idea of what I was going to feel like. I just knew that I'd been there before. And it was strange because I'd never been there before. But I tell you, and honest to God, I put my hands in the dirt and went, I know this place. I don't know why, but I know this place. And I put out an album, and the album, actually, the first place it got played was in WWOZ, which is in New Orleans. To have a blues record played by a white guy from Vancouver,
Wow.
in the where everything happens, that is heritage. It's called Heritage Radio. And I phoned them up and I asked them, could I please speak to somebody about my record? I was nervous, because it's a piece of your soul basically you're giving away. And I said, I'd like to talk to somebody about why you're playing my record. The guy gets on the phone, and there's all this kerfuffle noise in the background. He said, yeah, my name is Heavy D. I think his name is Heavy D. It was his on-air name. And I said, yeah, my name is Russell Earl Marsland, and you're playing my album Dig Deep. He goes, yeah. And I hear this noise in the background. I said, can I just ask you a couple of questions? I said, why? Why are you playing my record? He says, well, we have criteria. We have two things. He said, number one, we have to love your music, and we do. We have to believe you, and we do. We believe you. When you sing and play, man, we believe you. I don't care where you come from, but people are digging your music because it's real. Where it came from, I have no idea. It just came through me. And he said, I hope you don't mind, I have to cut you off. He says, we're in the middle of, the levees just broke here. We're up to our waist in water. This is when the levees broke in New Orleans, and the guy took the time to talk to me about my record. So if nothing ever happened again with the record, I was happy because somebody got what I was channeling.
So where do you get your inspiration from? It's
Well, it comes from everywhere. It comes from day-to-day life. And the strangest thing is when you try to conceive a record, it sounds just that way. It sounds conceived, like a jingle, like you wrote something. I like to just kind of lay it out there, and I imagine myself with an antenna sticking out of my head. This sounds weird, but I'm just picking up the information. I'm just picking up the spirit of it. When I wrote the record, I had no preconceived idea. I didn't even know if I could write a record. I just booked a studio. My producer, Chris Jesterman, he said, what do you want to do today? I said, I have no idea. I have no idea what to do. He said, you got any songs? I said, yeah, I've got the beginnings of one. He goes, cool. 5 years later, we produced this organic record that got critical acclaim. It just happened. Yeah, it just came through me, you know. And we're all the music we listen to. I mean, when I was a kid, I listened to country music. When I was a little boy, I used to see these guys playing these Gretsch guitars and with the sparkle jackets and everything. I just went, that's cool. A little boy staring up at this big stage is an incredible thing. Live music. You know, real guys up there sweating and doing their thing, you know. And that's the beauty of it. I mean, we opened for James Brown. You know what that's like? Are you kidding me? B.B. King, James Brown, Ray Charles. You know, to be on that stage, to be in the same building changes your life. To have them look at you and go, all right, you know, is an honor beyond anything, you know. And that's what keeps me going, is that the longer you live, the more experience you have, the more you got to talk about. And the more you can say about the musicians that you were inspired by Hendrix, by B.B. King, by Albert Collins, by all those great, Chet Atkins, all these great players that, and it was funny because one time we were talking with B.B., and B.B. said, I asked him, I said, excuse me, I said, can you give me something as a young guitar player that I should know about? And never forget this. He said, play one note that you love rather than 100 that you like. Mm. He's telling me, own your stuff. When you hear BB play, or when you hear even Santana, when you hear these guys, they speak through the instrument. And the great part about being influenced by those guys is that it opens up a whole different world of expression. BB's voice, incredible singing voice. When he testified, it was church. It was church. It wasn't some guy playing guitar. It was a guy who was tapped into some spiritual energy that you had no control over harnessing. It just came out. And every time I play, I go to a place that I have no control over.
Guitar.
Man, it's my voice. It's what comes out of me. You know, it just comes out. And I was very, very grateful to be inspired by these great musicians and be able to kind of extend my hand out as a musician to other musicians. I did music therapy with kids, done a whole bunch of stuff like that, because music actually changes your life.
It heals.
Changes my life on a daily basis. We know that music actually reprograms some of the cells in your body. We've seen it before. We know that it's real. I think Sting had something where he went into this machine and they took readings of his brain while he was meditating, and then he took readings of his brain while he was singing. Everything changed. His whole brain structure changed. We know that it makes plants grow. We know that it changes handicapped kids' way of thinking. It accesses another part of the brain. It's a way of communicating. We've lost a lot of our communication skills. A lot of it comes from a cell phone, where it's a wonderful way to stay connected, but to be in a live situation with musicians that are on fire, we've kind of forgotten about that. Everything's got to be processed, and when you process it, it kind of loses its original, juice, if you want to say it that way. I just feel really grateful at the age. I was born in 1954, so I'm 63 years old and change. I'm very grateful for the people I've seen Tina Turner up close, and like being in the room with all these, Chuck Berry, and it's and seeing it for the first time, not the new version of a guy who thinks he's Chuck Berry, like the real guy. We saw the Beatles for the first time. We saw Hendrix. We saw the Cream. In real time. So that has a place in my heart, and I'm influenced by all of it. I'm influenced by cowboy music. I'm influenced by classical music. I'm influenced by all kinds of stuff.
Russell, you ever thought of writing a book?
Yeah.
You have so much history.
Well, yeah. There's a lot of stuff that I'd love to be able to share, and we have a lot of great musicians in Vancouver that are constantly sharing what they can. But also, unfortunately, there's a lot of them that aren't here anymore, and it's kind of sad because sometimes the story doesn't get told. So
tell the story.
Yeah. And it inspired. It's always inspired me. I played in a group that Jimi Hendrix used to play guitar in, and I was told in no uncertain terms. This is the famous Bobby Taylor, who was first Canadian to be signed by Motown Records, and he just unfortunately passed away a while back. He leaned over to me in the middle of a rehearsal session, and he said, "Don't forget," he says, "you're playing in the band that Jimi Hendrix used to play in." He said, "Honor the situation." I just went, I got it.
So profound.
Man, it was heavy.
Yeah.
When I listened to Jimi Hendrix for the first time, we had a little band. We bought this Jimi Hendrix record, Are You Experienced? We all had, 25 cents, and we got this record, put it on this thing, and I heard Hendrix for the first time. I just about fell on the floor. I'll never forget that experience. So to play in a group that Jimmy used to play in, it doesn't get much better than that, So it just, it's cool. It's a great thing to share. Music is for sharing. It's not for keeping it. You're supposed to share it, and you gotta go out live and present it. You got to encourage people to play. Working with some handicapped kids and stuff like that, I didn't do it for a long time, but I did it for a while, and what I discovered was it changed them. They stopped thinking in the way they were thinking, because it accesses another part of your soul and another part of your brain, and it changes things. Why is it not so important in schools now? Why is it not, it's not, it doesn't have the gravity that it used to have. Music can be processed, and it can be just kind of throwaway. There's still great music out there, but you have to dig for it. I'm just grateful to be part of it, and it's still coming through me. Well, sorry, that's a long-winded answer.
No, it's not. But in 1978 you founded the Vancouver
Rhythm and Blues All-Stars. Yes. That was bizarre, and that came from our love of great soul music. And I had a soul band when I was 12 called the Blues Dimension, and we played at the P&E. We played in all over the place, church gigs and all those kind of stuff, and we played that music with tons of soul and tons of heart, and we all grew up together. And as we got a little bit older, we decided what we were going to do is form one of Vancouver's big R&B bands, a 12-piece band. And our first gig was at number 5 Orange Street. The first gig was opening for Long John Baldry. Very first gig. Not a bad gig.
No.
There was 4,500 people or something there, and it was down at the foot of Main Street. And the night after we played, Tom Harrison from the Province newspaper wrote a full page article, and it said at the top, it said, R&B music is alive and well in Vancouver, with a huge picture. And he proceeded to say that we carried the torch for this music from the old days, and that it was honest and it was full of life, and it blew everybody away. So the guy that owns the number 5 Orange Street, he decided he was at that gig. He decided he wanted us to play at his number 5 Orange Street on the weekends. We played there for, I think, 2 years, every Friday and Saturday night. And I tell you, all hell broke loose. It was insane. People were jumping onto the tables. We came from the upstairs where the dancers were, through a ladder, plexiglass ladder that was lit. We come down, from where the dancers used to come down, and perform, like about 3 hours of rhythm and blues music with a horn section in suits. We had black tuxedos, and people just went crazy. They were lined up all around the outside. The police department was there. The fire department was there. It was insane. And that's what got the R&B All-Stars started, that very first gig with Long John Baldry.
And has it been restarted again?
Yeah, well, the All-Stars, we played for many, many years, and we were lucky enough to get some fantastic gigs, over the years. And we started basically 78, 79. We had a couple of years where we decided just give it a rest, and the band is still playing. With some of the guys I've been playing with for over 40 years, which doesn't get better, Friends that you've had, musical friends for over 40 years.
Give it up for the R&B All-Stars.
Your guitar, your oldest guitar that you have.
The oldest one here, you can see it's got Tutankhamun's dust on it. It's pretty ancient. This guitar is, I believe it's 1910, 1920, something like that. And it's from England. And this guitar, guitars find me. I don't go looking for them, because every time I look for a guitar, it's the wrong one. And it ends up a heartbreak of some sort. This particular guitar found me. I was working in a vintage guitar store, and somebody just came in and said, I would like this to go to somebody who can play it. All I want is a case for a dulcimer or something. I said, okay, whatever you want. And this guitar has a certain vibe to it. it's a very unique guitar. I'll just play it. I
Yes.
played it in open tuning. I use it on my record a lot, but there's something about it that I haven't heard in another guitar before. This is most valuable to my heart. I'll just play it for There's just something about it. It's got this energy. And this guitar, I swear to God, has not been tuned in 10 years.
But it has special meaning because
It speaks to me, right? This particular guitar. Before, when I started working on the record, I wanted to play this guitar. I just went in the studio and I sat down and I started to play it. And one of those songs is on the record. Actually, two of the songs are on the record. Just this guitar for the first time, unrehearsed, no lyrics written, just came out. Just like the antenna we were talking about, right? And all of a sudden, that became Mississippi Homemade Jam, which is one of the tunes on the record. It just came out. So certain, you can hear it talk, it's got a life of its own. And I love them all for different reasons, and I think that they all have a soul.
Right.
It's energy. Guitars are energy. I like to get them. I like to find them. They tend to find me. Sometimes I give them away. Sometimes I fix them. Sometimes I play them. But it's like I'm a conduit. It's energy. There's
I
tons
can
of
feel the energy right now.
there's tons of energy on this guitar for sure.
And I just, the song "Time Has Changed."
Oh,
I
Time
like
for
that
Change,
song.
yeah. That was a weird one. That was me actually coming of age. The things I used to love before, I can't do them no more. The things I used to drink before, I can't drink them no more. The girls I used to love before, they don't even like me no more. It's kind of acknowledging your time on the planet. But it's time for a change. It's okay to be who you are. It's okay to be where you are in your life now. That was then. It's time for you to make a change. Not in a negative way, in a positive way. That you accept yourself for who you are. And that you love what you do. And that you love how you treat people. And that comes full circle. What you give out is what you give back. It's like an electronic current, right?
Well
This
said.
connects with you, I connect with you, and it just goes around and around. Boom,
Yes.
we're done, And that's what that song was all about. But it was acknowledging being on the planet, and going through a bunch of stuff. That's where the great songs come from personal experience, because you own that experience. You're not making it up like a jingle or like a TV show or whatever. You're not designing it for a specific purpose. It's exactly what you feel.
That's well said, Russell.
Yeah, try.
Yes. Well, I want to thank you for coming on the show.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And we'll have you back.
Thank you.
And we'll talk about what is next for Russell Earl Marsland. So stay tuned.
Thank you so much. Thank you.